Welcome back to VIBE Edu, as we've got the whole crew back again, as we are going to be talking about a little bit different of topic based on what we've been talking about before. This is on getting the most out of your professional learning. And this series, we've gone through school PD, state and district, and then national conferences, which was last episode. And this time we're going to be talking about how to present at a PD, or what are some things to do to present at a conference. So we're kind of flipping it around as far as the individual that's listening. If you have something that you're doing that's amazing in your classroom, at your school, you have an initiative and you want to share it out to other folks, this is an opportunity to learn from the four of us, as we have done this many, many times at different levels. And I'm going to throw it out to who wants to start with your thought process in regards to presenting at any type of PD.
I'll start. I said this at VIBE last year when I would say it's almost even like a responsibility we have to share when you feel like, hey, this really worked, or I figured this thing out, or even if you can't fully like articulate it. I think some of the first steps, depending on the culture of your school, can be just starting to share with colleagues. I also know people that doesn't feel really comfortable, or maybe the culture doesn't I guess support that, and so taking the step to submit a proposal at a conference. But I would nudge our listeners to kind of see that as a responsibility. Like, you figured some things out, you can help. No pressure, of course, but I think people need to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Do we think about a starting point for folks? Like, I can think of plenty of people that I've worked with over the years, both a peer as a teacher or as me as an administrator, asking like, hey, I've seen this in your classroom. Do you mind sharing this out to the staff? And to Mitch's point of the comfort level, like, they get stark white, they start to sweat profusely, and they're like, no, I don't want to do that because of the fear is too great. So if there's some listeners out there that are feeling that anxiety when someone asks about potentially sharing that out either to their staff at a district, or even, hey, have you ever presented this at a conference? Where would you want them to start with all that?
I think dipping your toe into this, it's best to let people just into your space. Like, that's how it started, at least for me, was I just said, come on in. And then went without kids, right? And it was after school, and I could just speak from the heart about one thing that I did to support myself or support the students throughout the school day. And I mean, I look at pictures when those conversations had happened, and I was like sitting on top of the desk, or we were sitting on the ground, or, it was just like super comfy, low pressure, I think is what it has to be. And I think, again, if your focus is more on intentional conversations instead of doing a full presentation sort of a thing, it does make you kind of feel like you could just be real. I mean, really, that's when teachers learn the best, is when they're learning from somebody who could just be real with them. And so I think that's where I would start, just inviting people in. And not, I think when kids are there, you feel that extra layer of pressure to perform, or it has to be perfect, or the kids have to behave a certain way or whatever. So I think after school or before school, sort of a conversation, open up your door, just sit and hang out, sort of a vibe. I think that's and a conversation, not a presentation.
I think the nudge from others is helpful, to your point, Josh, with that. Because even Kim, like that, like saying, I can imagine someone thinking like, well, who am I to invite people into a conversation? Because does it sound like self-serving, or I figured something out at you, I'm having more success than you, or whatever that might be. There can be that nudge to hey, this would be really helpful if you shared it. Like, well, this is, and figuring that out. For me, my own experience, it was teachers started showing up because the kids were talking about it. Now when I'm hearing you all talk, it's like, that was the nudge. I had no intention of ever sharing it. In fact, didn't even know how to. But that nudge, I feel like it can be hard to invite people in to look at something really cool that you've created. Right? Like, come and check me out. It's like, no, I think there's something about that nudge. I've never thought about this until now, but there's got to be.
Wasn't that how organized binder got created? Is
Well,
people were like, "Hey, I want to
and
learn
then,
about this."
yeah, people started showing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it had kind of its early phase, if you will, or iteration had come about, and we were using it, and the kids kept talking about it in their other classes and asking their teachers to use it. And they came by and said, "What's this binder thing that you got going on in here?" Because the kids won't shut up about it, and they love it. They're loving your class, and things are not going well in my class with the same kids. And what is this? And so then that was kind of my nudge to say, here. And then the second nudge was the next year they adopted, not my choice, ninth grade adopted it school wide, every subject, every context. So then I had to step into like a training and support role, which can be very weird when it's your own colleagues. Most were really cool, some weren't. Right? 50 miles makes an expert. So when you're in your own backyard, it can get a little tricky at times. So
I think there's incremental process to it. And I think that's what you're kind of alluding to, Mitch, in terms of you get the nudge. Maybe with Kim's point, you do something before or after school, seems successful. Maybe you're up in front of the faculty meeting. Maybe the district office asks you to do it for a couple of schools. You write an Edutopia article about it, and then you're ready to submit a proposal to maybe a state or national conference. I wouldn't just go submitting a proposal to a national conference on something that you haven't presented to in front of others.
Right.
Another nice thing to join is a small group of people who are going to do a presentation at a faculty meeting or a panel. So I really like being on panels, and I also really like roundtables as formats. And I think we ought to get into that too in terms of the types of presentations that you can submit to do sometimes when there's a variety of them. But that's also a way to ease in where you're not the single person in front of the crowd with a microphone. You're there on a panel, you're going to ask a question, or you're there with a group of people who are presenting a concept that you worked on, an initiative that you did at your school system. But I will also underscore the value of that in terms of what you're giving back to the profession, but the responsibility behind it. I think we all need to be growing and sharing. That's what this show is about. That's how it started. That's the essence of it. And I think it is, if you're a school leader or a teacher, it is an eventual responsibility to get out in front of your peers or to have them come in, to Kim's point.
When I started speaking, like, as you were talking, I was like, okay, Kim, really go back to the beginning. And I wasn't alone. I mean, yes, they started coming into my classroom. We started having conversations. Then it started kind of like word got out, and teachers and administrators from other schools were coming in to talk to me after school. And then when I started speaking about it, I wasn't alone. I was with a speech and language pathologist that I had gone to for support, and the two of us banded together, and it was really cool. I know from a viewer's perspective to look at a gen ed teacher and an SLP together speaking the same language. It was kind of like oh, okay. And it kind of gave like some credibility, right? Not like she's just this cute first grade teacher. Like, no, she really knows her stuff. This is, she's speaking the same language as a speech pathologist, And then after that kind of road show went, then it was me speaking directly to elementary and middle school and high school teachers in like a series. We had a series of PDs kind of towards the end of a school year. And those were like fire. I mean, and that's when I think I got like you said, that practice, right? And then it turned into getting invited to speak for organizations. And then after that, I was like, okay, I think maybe I can do this whole bigger conference thing. But stepping into that was really scary. Like, you have major imposter syndrome as a teacher going, who am I? Who am I to be talking about what we're doing, But then I think getting out there and having conversations, even on social media, with people who were going to be at that conference and they were excited to just sit and talk to me, it became less again about this presentation that I was doing and more about how can I bring more people into this work. And I think that mindset shift is important too to think about.
There's other stuff you can do though leading up to that, and I think that it's important to mention as well, like building a LinkedIn newsletter and then publishing even once a month, or like to get that comfort. If you've published about it and people liked it on social, or you use some snippets and people cared about that, or you created a couple videos and it resonated with some people, and then maybe you had a blog or a website or something like that. That's how it started for me anyways. We started with the models that we use to turn schools around, Joe and I anyway, during No Child Left Behind. We both had turnaround schools. We started with the models that helped us with turnaround leadership, and then we wrote about that. It resonated with people, and then we presented on it. Somebody said, you need to present this at a conference, so we did. Somebody in the crowd raised their hand and said, are you for hire to train our district leaders? Like, that was all just serendipitous. It was about giving back to the field because we had turned schools around. We knew the evidence of what worked. And so if you have that same evidence in your classroom, let's submit an article and then feel comfortable about that. There's plenty of periodicals, professional resources that you can publish in. I think that stuff's just as important as presenting. And then it's time for proof of concept and to present at one of these national conferences.
I think as a mindset, though, it does take people providing positive feedback for you to get the confidence to start to do those things. I mean, my tap on the shoulder to Mitch's point was an administrator saying, hey, if you want to be a leader on a campus anywhere, you're going to need to make sure that you can provide professional development to the staff. And so you need to do that. And so they not only nudged me, but they scheduled it and said, this is the content that we want you to present on in the next month's staff meeting. And we think this is good for you to be able to speak on if it's an interview for administrator or whatnot. So that was more of my leadership process of like putting things on paper to say I did X, Y, and Z. But it also, I mean, as an administrator, you provide PD all the time. This is something that is just part of your role and responsibilities. So it was also good for my comfort level. And then to your point, TJ, as far as like presenting at a conference, my first time presenting at a conference was with Todd Neslony. He invited me to present with him because he was trying to give me opportunity to be at the conference and to get experience, but not doing it by myself. It was, let's bring you in. Todd's the expert. He was like, I'm the expert. I'm going to bring you in and you get a taste of this. And that way we're sharing the load of responsibility up there instead of it just only on you. And to this day, I mean, I give him a ton of credit for one, speaking into me saying like, hey, you should be presenting at conferences, but two, give me the opportunity to speak with him. So it wasn't all of it on top of me. So if you, to your point, TJ, if you can be on a panel with other people or if you can co-present, I think that's probably an easy way to get some confidence and get your entry point into conferences. So it's not just completely on you.
Two quick technical tips. One is you get hours for presenting and doing PD. So a lot of times your state or your district, you have to collect a bunch of PD hours over a certain period of time. That counts for when you're presenting. And two, log all of this. Don't wait till one day when somebody says, show me your resume of presenting, and you're trying to look back at all the conferences and faculty PD you did. Start your log today, and then you'll have your CV. It will come in handy in the future, whether you think you need it now or not.
That's wise. I had to do that last week. Like, where have you presented before?
I was going to say, I just had to do that too.
Sit in my calendar. I'm like, oh yeah, I spoke there. I spoke there. I'm like going back over the last year. Like, oh, here's my list. And I put it on a Google Doc, TJ. So
like a running doc. I like that. Just a running doc.
Yeah. Well, that should be, I mean, it is, to TJ's point, like that should be on your CV or your resume, because like, I think TJ, you had said it before, like the time you need a resume is the time when it's asked for. And
Mhm.
so you need to make sure that you have that as a touch point and it's being updated as you're getting experience, regardless of what your title is. So it's just good practice. Do we want to go back to the types of presentations
Yes,
for PD?
I think we should.
All right. Who wants to start with the different types? TJ, you had brought it up. So do you want to?
Sure. I mean,
Continue.
there's obviously the keynote. If you're new to this, that's probably not the first thing you're going to go to. Like we said, probably the first step is local in your own school or district. And the next would be maybe a panel. I really like presenting at roundtables more than I ever have. 10 people, maybe 3 rotations.
Explain the different session types, TJ.
Right. So a lot of times you'll have a 60-minute that's more of a lecture style. It could be 75 minutes. This is people in rows taking notes, and maybe you're doing a turn and talk, but for the most part, you're straight presenting information, totally informational, not conversational. Then there's usually the 60-minute roundtables where people are seated at big roundtables in 60 minutes, and you're in a room and you can have them do stuff and construct and work together at the tables. And then the one I was talking about is a roundtable where there's a presenter at every roundtable, and each roundtable has a topic, and you rotate to the topic. So if there's 6 topics in the room, you might only get 3. So you pick your 3 ahead of time and you rotate, and the presenters do 15 to 20 minutes, and then they do the same 15 to 20 minutes. And I've done that anywhere from 2 rotations to 5 rotations. 5 rotations is exhausting because the 4th and 5th time you're still saying the same thing. But those rotations are great because you can get a lot of feedback and you can really dive deep into problems of practice and solutions to things. So they all just have a different feel and a different impact. But thinking about that, especially if you're new, thinking about how to get included and get involved makes a big difference in, I think it was Kim said, dipping your toe in the water to get started. Go be on a panel somewhere, get asked 2 questions and answer them to the best of your ability and put on your resume. Now you're a speaker.
What about a workshop?
Workshop, same thing. It's different feel. Those could be 90 minutes to 3 hours in some
longer.
cases. Institutes, we do full retreat planning. And so, yeah, those types of things you typically want at least a knowledge base as an outcome. But in many cases, there's artifacts that are created and next steps, not just this is thoughtful. But we did address the fact that even if you're just in there for the thoughtful part, we'd like you to put something into practice within 2 weeks, or it's a failure with a capital F.
I was gonna say, where is it?
It was at the very bottom. I had to scroll. We have so many banners at this point. All right. So as far as, so those are the different types, unless anyone has anything else. TJ just talked about keynote, panel, roundtable. We talked about workshop. What about the process? Do we want to talk about the process as far as local first and then kind of expand from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. If you're going to talk about an actual professional development event, conference, summit, whatever it is, I think starting local. Also being mindful of the themes, if what you have to offer is congruent with the focus or one of the strands in the conference, then it makes sense. If it doesn't, just look elsewhere. But yeah, I would definitely start local.
So typically online, they have an application process. I mean, to Mitch's point, you're going to want to look at not only theme, but a lot of times there's objectives too, and some type of category that your presentation will fit in. So they may have 3, 4, 5 different branches within the conference, and so you have to select where your presentation fits. But then you also, to TJ's point earlier too, is you need to have like an objective. You need to make sure that you have language as far as what the participants are going to gain from your presentation, what's the outcome. And then of course, a very concise synopsis of what it is, and a really catchy title, that people are going to want to give more information about, right? You want to get butts in the seat. So you want to make sure that the topic is interesting, maybe pull some curiosity as far as what it is, but then also they know this is something that I can implement right away and it's going to be valuable. And so those are all things to think about as you're putting that proposal in. And usually the application is pretty self-explanatory as to the things that they're seeking out. So TJ, you look like you're in deep thought there, buddy.
Well, I was thinking about somebody who's saying, but how do I find out about those proposals? And then I was thinking, well, you've got to be members of these associations and you've got to subscribe to their online materials. And for example, if you're a teacher, there's a National Council for Teachers of Mathematics, and there's that for CTE. ACTE is one of my favorite organizations. I'm part of the Work-Based Learning Policy Board or Policy Committee. And you should, whatever your domain is, I seriously suggest, if we haven't said it on the show before, to subscribe to the national, local organizations so you get their materials, but also you get notified when their conferences are and when the call for proposal is. Because if you just learned about the conference, the call for proposal was 6 months ago.
Right.
So that's just the cadence of it, I think is important, but I can't stress enough to belong to these associations and get their resources is going to make you a stronger teacher or a stronger leader. Just reading what they send you in the mail and paying attention to what the emails when they come through.
Let's say I've done all this. I'm a teacher listening, and I'm like, yep. Okay, great. And then I get accepted. Like, now what? Right now it's like oh shit sort of a moment, right? Like, now I got to create this presentation and button this up. Let's walk through like how we create a presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
From scratch. Like, how do you do that? I think that'd be a cool conversation to have.
Yeah, and what goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
I looked over while I was talking about the national periodicals, and I was just looking at my NASSP Principal Leadership April newsletter. So look, it's right here.
Did you read in the rain? It's so wrinkly. What happened?
I was using it to swat wasps as well. It's two purposes, but
the gift that keeps on giving. I love it. Well, and to your point, TJ, I just saw like on social media, I think it was ITSD, that they're going to be in Orlando, and then they're seeking proposals for that giant national. So like, also you should be following them on social media. If they have a newsletter, signing up for that, because they call out for presenters all the time for these organizations for different events. Or you can have your magazine that's sent to your house too.
I get the magazines. I always sign up for the magazines. Like, there's usually a paper subscription, and then there's a membership that you can get that's just the online resources. But I like getting the reminders in the mail, getting the postcards in the mail, getting the paper copies. I read them from front to back. That's why they're so wrinkled and ruined. They're in my backpacks. They're in the.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw the TEPS magazine come out, and then I was on part of the presentation or the conference and see my picture on there, I mean, it's pretty exciting. I'm not gonna lie.
Good.
Feels good.
Okay, how do we create a presentation?
Oh yeah, sorry.
How do we get off the task?
I don't know.
I think it depends on. Josh did that. I think it depends on.
I did
what
that?
you're presenting, like the topic, and what I mean by that. I was thinking, like, how did I first, create an organized binder training? Well, it was all parallel process, and because it was this, let's say, routine in the classroom, I just walked people through it.
Right.
I didn't do like a lot of role playing. So the slide deck was either one part saying, first let's start by saying, don't have that many words on your slides. First and foremost.
Okay.
If you're presenting, you're not reading to people. That's game over right from the jump.
Mhm.
But there's going to be a mix of like, at least this is how I approach it now, but like, let me kind of explain it to you. I'm going to show you, I'm going to walk you through the process. So you're actually going to have a chance to not so much role play. I don't personally like that when I'm in the audience. It's like, just tell me what you got. Like, I don't want to
Mhm.
sit here and pretend
Yeah.
like I'm a student. That's just
Right,
me.
right, right.
But so for me, it was just like, hey, I'm just going to show you this program I created. So it wasn't, I don't even remember, the first slides, but then I would encourage anybody, you spend some time as well and ground it. If it's working, if something's working, it's likely has a research base, even if you don't know that research yet or that
Mm.
literature yet. And that's a fun process, or at least that was my process. Is I've since this all came into the world, I've spent the time since then finding the research, finding the literature and reading it like TJ, like, and going, oh, that's why that step in this routine had such a significant impact. I didn't necessarily know the research base. And I think a lot of us that are practitioners that are stepping into this space as opposed to academics or researchers, the process is a research backed resource or program or entity as opposed to research based, which would be, hey, we have this problem, we're going to do research into it, we're going to try to create a solution.
Right.
The practitioners are, teachers and leaders are doing it and creating, and so then you find that research base. I always find that really compelling when somebody, again, you're not reading a whole white paper to them, but you're just, this quote from this resource, you list it. So if people want to explore that further, but it adds some validity to the presentation, I think.
Mhm.
I
But
like that.
ultimately, can I just say, just go for it. Like, in the end, this is true of the classroom, right? That the person who's doing the teaching and the talking is doing most of the learning, right? There's a metacognitive aspect to being the presenter, and the stuff you present on, you'll actually get better at that thing, and how you articulate it, how you share it, how because all of us still swing and miss sometimes on presentations, or maybe a part of one, right? I just did one last week and I left out like what I would argue was one of the most critical slides in the whole slide deck. Well, I'm live. That's just how it goes. That
Mhm.
one's not in there.
Mhm.
So I'm learning from the process. And when you step into that space and go for it, you learn a lot. You learn a lot.
I think one of my favorite things to do is to, I would say, hook people at the beginning so that they feel like you get them, right? And so painting a picture of maybe their classroom, some of the experiences that they've had or that they're going through right now, when you kind of like show them like, oh yeah, this is me. Yes, I've been through that too. Oh, was she just in my classroom yesterday? Because that's exactly what just happened. Those types of things, then there's like this instant connection. And then when there is this connection, people are more open to the learning. And I think
Yeah,
that
for
is,
sure.
I think, really, really important work is to connect with your people first instead of just saying, hey, I am Kim Gamarose and I'm going to teach you how to become the bison. Ready? Okay. No, they're not ready. They're not ready. You have to warm them up so that they're like, oh, she gets me. Okay, yeah. Now I'm going to lean in to whatever she has to say, right? And then it kind of starts like they start taking in whatever you're saying and those experiences that you were painting a picture in the beginning. Now they're going to use that new information and go, oh, that's what she was talking about. I should have done this there. Oh, that's what she was talking about with this one. I could have done that there. And now all of a sudden it's coming to light and they're experiencing it without even stepping into their classroom. And then that doing part, right? When you say, what are you going to do? They're ready for it. I think that's my secret that I would give for sure.
I always had the mindset of like, how do I want to be taught to during a presentation?
Yes.
Like, and I think I've said on this before, I was probably one of the worst attendees for PD because most of the time I was like, I don't need this. I don't want to learn this. Like, this is a waste of my time. And so I'd sit in the back with my other coach friends and we would just screw around back there. That was like the perception of who we were on campus. I know, Mitch. I know.
Boy.
I've grown a lot since then. Let's just say that. But I also realized that the PD that was presented to me at that time was extremely boring. We were just getting talked to for an hour at a time. And so I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person that's providing PD where everyone's bored out of their mind and is saying, I'd rather die than be sitting here any longer. Because there's a lot of folks that feel that way anytime that they're going either to a PD that's on their campus for the district, or if they're going to a conference. There's just some folks that's the mindset. And so, as a presenter, you just need to have that lens. Like, if I was sitting in my own PD, would I enjoy it?
Right.
Or am I, is there opportunities for them to get up and move at any point in this 60 minutes or 3-hour workshop that I'm with them? Or are they just going to be sitting there the entire time? So, it's just to have that different lens. And then, of course, the value component. If they're connecting, like to Kim saying right there at the beginning, you've hooked them, they understand that you're there for the right reasons. When they leave, are they saying, I got something extremely valuable in this session that I'm able to bring back with me and implement tomorrow? Or is it something that, that was fun, but I don't know how I'm going to possibly use that later on? So I think the value piece of making sure that it's something that when they leave, they feel like they just found treasure. I think that's also something you need to have as a perspective.
I like to create sets. So I'm thinking about the intro, like Kim's point, I'm hooking them into the concept. And then let's say I have 4 concepts. Like Joe and I are doing some PD later this week, and we're doing 3 concepts. So we know that there's 3 things that we want to convey. And so there's going to be a slide that's going to introduce the concept. And then there's going to be, let's say, 3 or 4 slides after that. That experience is going to be the same or similar for all 3 concepts. So I know right away, if there's 3 concepts and the first concept, we build 3 slides for it or 4 slides for it, the other concepts are going to have that exact same number of slides. It might be that we explain something, we dive deeper, we talk about how it works in action, and then we give people a question or a turn and talk. And then we're just going to continue to do that structure like that. And the turn and talk may just be different or a different flavor, or we might have them go into breakout rooms in a virtual PD one time, and then in another time have them just talk in the main room if they're all in the same space. So considering the space, I think, is critical. Are the people in rows? Are they at tables? Is it a small group? Is it a large group? That's, as a presenter, those are the first questions I ask, is like, how is the space organized? How many people are in it? And that's going to determine that last slide of each of the sets in terms of the audience engagement.
I was thinking of timing too, right? Like, I personally am a really good judge of time. I grew up teaching dance classes. Dance classes were an hour, right? Similar to like a period, like a class period. You know how you can like feel your class period? Like, okay, I can feel it, like we're wrapping up. But if you've never presented before, knowing the amount of time and knowing what that amount of time feels like when you're talking to people, it is something that you have to really, really practice. And so let's say you had a great conversation, somebody asked a question, you're talking through it, and now like you're getting down to the wire to the very, very end, and maybe you're not going to go through all of your slides. Are you able to convey that information in another sort of way so that people don't walk out without your third concept sort of a thing? So my advice is not sitting there in your room and practicing it, but yes, it is, but also kind of going through what you really want to talk about, what the conversations might be about, how you can go off topic a little bit, bring people back so that you get everything that you want to give them. You're able to do it. Does that make sense? It's hard to do.
I was going to say, Kim, my first presentation at a conference by myself was only 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I was so excited about that because I had a concept. It was actually the language of behavior. It was a concept that I had. It was a blog, to TJ's point before. That was its original starting point, and it kind of grew from there. So then, okay, can I get 20 minutes? And it's kind of like a comedian. A lot of times when comedians are starting out, they'll do like a 5-minute spot. They'll do a 10-minute spot. It's really short. It's not like I'm going up to stage and doing an hour special the first time I'm doing it. No, they do it in small increments, and then they, based on the feedback and how the audience is doing, and then they build it out from there. And so for me, doing a 20-minute spot, at the end, I was even more confident because I was like, oh, I have more to say. I was worried about 20 minutes, but now I feel like I could do a 45-minute from there. And then when I'm building my 45-minute, which was my second time presenting at a conference on the language of behavior, I felt like I had more that I didn't say in the first 20-minute or 25-minute, and now I can build it out from there. And so if you're able to do that, some conferences have even shorter times. I've seen like a TEDx, kind of spots where it's like 10, 15 minutes. They're just rotating speakers in all the time. And so maybe that's the starting point for folks to gain some confidence, or see if you can speak for just a small amount of time on the topic and how you feel. And then if you feel like you have more to say, then it's easier to build out, from there.
I love that. That's good.
All right. I think we should probably wrap up. But before we do that, we didn't last time, Kim, get any updates on VIBE Edu. So I want to throw it to you before we close it down to share a little about this special event, because now they can purchase tickets.
Okay. So VIP tickets are officially sold out. I don't know if I announced that yet. Officially sold out. So that, like TJ, what you were talking about with the round tables and being able to like get some information, put it to work with a group, speak to another person about their other, like that's what we're going to get to do on that second day. But our general admission tickets, they are available. We're going to fill the Arctic with incredible heart-centered educators. And during those sessions, you will see a panel. You'll get to ask questions. You will get to be able to be part of these conversations, and no slide decks at all. So grab those tickets for July 31st, and it's 6 to 9 p.m. Doors will open for general admission at 5:45. So that's it. That's the
No slide decks, gentlemen. Did we sign up for that? I don't remember. That's weird.
Not allowed.
No, we're super excited now that it's a 2-day event for VIBE Edu. But make sure you're heading over to the website, which is in the show notes. Click on that, grab your ticket. You're going to be amazed at how this is different than your typical conference, and the energy and passion that is going to be overflowing in the Arctic. So we're so excited for, I don't know, a couple months from now. I know it's coming up quick, which is crazy. I just looked at my calendar. So make sure you're signed up for that. Make sure you see the 4 of us in person there. And next episode, we're going to do a mailbag episode. And for those who are new to the show, this is where we take your questions, answer them throughout the episode. And we do that after each series. So make sure that if you have a question about the topic that we're talking about now, which is, getting the most out of professional learning, you can make sure that you send it over to us. You can send it to Kim if you're part of our community, or you can send it to us via website, which is in the show notes. And we'll make sure that we answer those as quickly as possible. And then we'll get into our new series, which we still got to figure out. So exciting times. So we'll see you again next week, and we look forward to seeing you at VIBE Edu.